One story that continues to have various fallouts is the Punjab National Bank fraud, which had been detected about 10 days back now. Now, one of the things that is being talked about is the transfer of employees at some of these banks following a CVC reminder that all bank employees must be transferred after a mandatory amount of period. In most cases, that's 3 years. Now, this is not new, but it is believed or there is talk in the market that some of this has not been happening as per plan. For instance, in Punjab National Bank case, it appeared that the person who was one of the alleged perpetrators of the fraud had been at his post for a much longer period than 3 years. But is there any truth to talk of these mass transfers? Let me welcome in the IBA CEO, Mr. VG Kannan. Mr. Kannan, thanks so much for taking the time. So my first question to you is there any truth to these reports that there are large-scale transfers happening at public sector banks in cases where this 3-year deadline may not have been adhered to? Banks are now making sure it is.
I don't think that there will be any large-scale transfer because, as you rightly mentioned, this is an existing circular which the government has issued a long time ago, saying that, and it's also a part of the internal policy of most of the banks, saying that no person should remain in the same seat or in the same position for long periods. So, in certain cases, it could be 3 years, it could be 4 years or 5 years, basically to ensure that there is no continuity or some sort of a nexus between different people and given an opportunity. I think this is not something new which is happening. And in the regular course also, most people get transferred during the period April to June. So that is something which will always happen. There could be a few cases where people have not been depositing for more than 3 years and 4 years. In most cases, it could be an exemption given. But as a rule, most of the bankers do follow the 3-year, 5-year rule.
Absolutely, Mr. Kannan. But I think, given what has happened in PNB's case, I guess bank managements, and rightly so, are looking through all the processes being followed. And if it has been found that there have been transfers which have been delayed for one reason or another, and if these transfers are taking place all at the same time, could it have an operational impact, sir? We are also at the year end, so, transfers will tend to shuffle things a bit.
I don't think so any such thing happening. But this yearly transfer is something which is pretty common in the banks, across all banks, especially in the public sector. People can transfer. And the impact is not much. It's pretty smooth and hardly much of a ripple. I think nothing much needs to be added to this.
Okay. So we shouldn't take note of the employee associations also cautioning against some of these transfers, sir?
No, see, employees association may actually look at something vindictive. I don't think there's anything vindictive. And in fact, they are party to the discussions whenever we have these transfers of 3 and 5 years. They are party to the discussion. I don't think they'll oppose to it. They probably are feeling that people who have had less than 3 years and all may be transferred. But I don't think that should be much of a case.
Sure. Mr. Kannan, the other thing that has happened in the last few days is the Reserve Bank of India communicating to banks that they must link the core banking with SWIFT by the end of April, I believe. So any stock taking across the banking sector as to how many still need to do it?
Inevitably, and I can't really give any number because we have not really gone through, but I do understand quite a good number of people have already started. Some of them already have it, and it's not much of an issue. I think they should be in a position to manage this linking, and there is, of course, a period of testing the APIs as and when you have the linkages. So it is a process, and I'm sure they're giving you end of April. It's 2 months. 2 months is a pretty reasonable time. And it doesn't have to be done at each and every branch. The moment it is centrally done, it will flow into the SWIFT system. I think then that should not be much of a problem.
There would be a cost attached to it, though, sir. We believe it's not inexpensive to get this linkage in place.
No, I don't think there will be much of a cost. Cost could be there, of course. I don't think it is so prohibitive cost.
All right. So final issue is, there is again, and this is, from banking sources, we understand that there is a relook at the whole LOU process. Banks at PSP banks are relooking at it. Foreign banks who lend against these LOUs are also relooking at it. So at an industry level, is there an attempt to try and ensure that, the safety of the banking system is not questioned, or the safety of some of these LCs, LOUs issued by the banking system is not questioned?
No, I can tell you one thing is LCs and LOEs, etc., are all genuine instruments. It just so happens that there was probably some gap, which was probably exploited by a couple of people. But these are all, if every LC is going to be looked at that way, then we'll have major issues. And otherwise, the entire trade system in the world will come to a halt. And I don't think so that yes, people will be looking at the internal systems to find out if there are any gaps. And that will be something which will be attended to by all the banks. I don't think so. The process is something, the product is anything wrong with the product, but I think the process has to be seen, that's all.
All right, Mr. Kannan, thank you so much for giving us a quick sense of various aspects of this PNB fraud fallout. Mr. Kannan clarifying that he does not know of any mass-scale transfers happening. Certain cases where they had not been happening on schedule may have been re-looked at. Also acknowledging that there is a SWIFT linkage which has been now mandated with core banking by the end of April. We reported that on BloombergQuint on Friday. And then finally saying that he believes that LCs and LOUs, some of these contingent liability products that are issued by Indian banks, are well respected or well known products, and nothing new in that.